WFSB Plus. It's our exclusive look at the state of the Connecticut Sun and the WNBA in this state of Connecticut. I'm Marc Robbins. Our sports director here at WFSB Channel 3 is Joe Zone, and we also have a very special guest with us, Maggie Vanoni, the beat writer for the Connecticut Sun, for UConn women and the Connecticut Sun and all of women's basketball in the state of Connecticut from the Connecticut Insider. Maggie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk Sun.
Oh, we are excited to talk to you about it because, as we've been talking before this show began, you are our expert. You have the in-depth knowledge of this, not only what we see on the floor, but behind the scenes, because you've been covering them and covering them with so much depth. And Joe, I'll let you ask the first question if you'd like, but where do you think we're going to be in about a year from now? Are we going to be talking about a continuous team in Connecticut, or is this Connecticut Sun team on the move?
Well, my gut tells me they're going to sell it now, shortly, play next year here, run that out, and then it's going to be, in my opinion, that Boston deal is too good to turn down, and that's where they're going to end up. Now, we know, and Maggie's been on this, and you've been on it, that in the last few days, the governor's got a team, a group who want to try to keep him here. Whether they can do that, well, that remains to be seen. And Maggie, this has been a hard story to track down because, you know, every time there's a media report, the tribe denies it or says it's not finalized or not done. So you're having a tough, I know your folks want you to nail it down, but it's hard to nail down.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of this is just what we know from reports, right? A lot of this is kind of he said, she said stuff with different reports coming from different outlets. The Globe obviously first reported about the Boston bid. We've reported about this Hartford bid coming in. But again, this is all business too. A lot of this has non-disclosure agreements, so they can't really publish too much information about any of these bids and what they actually may look like.
So what do you know about each bid in a comparison way? What do they look like as far as we, the general public, know?
Yeah, they're pretty similar numbers-wise. I mean, Boston's is around $325 million for the price tag alone. That would come up a relocation, obviously, up to TD Garden permanently. And then that also includes a $100 million practice facility, which the Sun don't have a facility right now. They're the only team in the league that does not have a facility or has not announced plans to build one. The Hartford one's pretty similar numbers, again, around the $300 million mark, would also have to build a facility in downtown Hartford, would have to provide housing for the players. They're not... The biggest difference is the relocation, obviously, having going to Boston permanently versus just moving up about an hour to Hartford.
When you say provide housing, will both plans provide housing, and is that common in the WNBA?
Yeah, absolutely. All teams have to provide housing. Players can either opt into the housing or they could choose to, opt out and provide their own housing, but that's pretty standard across the league.
I did not know that.
It seems to me that we're at a point where we may not know this, but the Boston offer is a real offer. The Hartford offer is an attempt to gather equal funds. So we want to do it, and this person's interested and this person's interested. Boston's offer to me seems real. Hartford's is, we want it to be real, but it's not real yet. That's my understanding from out here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much more than what we already know. I know the Hartford one, it sounds like it's coming together this week. It sounds like the governor's really pushing for it and saying, we're going to do whatever it takes to try to keep this team in Connecticut. The Boston one, there's been reports it's been in the Mohegan tribe's hands since early July. We don't know why they didn't act on it sooner. We don't quite know exactly when they'll act on it. The WNBA Board of Governors has final say. So the tribe might like a bid, the WNBA might like a different bid. We're not quite sure when they'll make that announcement, when they'll come to an agreement.
I can't imagine, and I know every league's owners or board of governors, however you want to classify them, they make the final decision. The commissioners don't make the decision on who buys a team or where the team is moved from, if it's or if it's expansion or not. So I would imagine that whatever is presented to the Board of Governors is what the Mohegan tribe wants, and what whoever has the bid wants. And if you're spending $300+ million, and you say you want to go to Boston, you're either going to Boston or you're out of the biddings. I can't imagine the Board of Governors, when they get something that solid, passing on that. I would think it's for the league. Now, this league, I think the three of us might be in agreement, has struggled in organization and promoting to the best of its ability its teams and its players. We certainly know that the players feel they're underpaid, and many in the general public feel that way too. I think the three of us agree that they need to be paid much more than they're getting. So there's a lot of work for the league to do. I can't imagine they want to drag this type of situation, this move or this sale. They don't want it to drag out much longer. They probably won't play until 2027, but they want to have everything done pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so, especially with a new CBA potentially coming in next year. The league is currently in negotiations with the players about that CBA, and that's also something they want to have an agreement on sooner than later. I don't know exactly what the league's thinking in terms of relocation or keep the Sun in Connecticut. They did put out a statement on Saturday when reports of this Boston team Boston bid, started to come out, that they are prioritizing cities that already have expansion bids in, and Boston is not one of them. The league just announced they're going to be expanding to 18 teams in 2030, with teams in Detroit, Philly, and Cleveland, and Boston did not put a bid in to be in that process. And I think the league, is thinking, why not go to these other cities that have an organization already, that already have bids in, that have proven they have the resources, they have the ownership ready. So I'm not quite sure exactly which way they're going to decide.
That's interesting, because what you're saying is that there are teams ahead of the city of Boston, cities ahead of Boston, who have already applied for an expansion, have been approved for expansion, and Boston's not one of those cities.
Correct.
So what would be the benefits, again, in a comparison mode, to bringing in an expansion team to those cities that you talked about, and not Boston, or in conjunction with? You could do both.
Right.
If you're going to expand, that's not an expansion to put in Boston. I just think it comes back to, if I'm paying $325 million, I want the team where I want the team.
Right.
And I just wonder if the league can look at that much money, that movement of a team for that much money, and say, no, we want to put it somewhere else. And I don't think that bid would say, okay, put it in Cleveland instead of Boston.
Right.
What do you think?
So I guess the big difference is this is an acquisition, right? This is not going to be an expansion team. Expansion teams start from ground zero. They create all the logo. They create everything from scratch. This team, whoever gets the Sun, if the Sun do go for sale, will have this franchise already. A rebrand might be probably in the future of, maybe a different name, maybe a different staff, maybe
Which
whatever.
the Sun was when they moved here from Orlando.
Exactly. And so I feel like we don't know what the league is valuing most, right? Is it the price tag? Is it the location? Is it having more teams in different parts of the country? Maybe they don't want to be in New England anymore. Maybe they want to be elsewhere. And so it's a lot of factors going into this, and a price tag is obviously huge. And when the Tribe bought this team in 2003, it was $10 million. Now it's worth $300+ million. That's a huge turn of investment. That's a huge huge sign of growth in this league and in women's basketball. And you're right, why would you not want to turn that down?
Yeah, but of course, as you pointed out, for the casino, for the Mohegan Sun.
That's that 2 days, 2 days of the slots.
Yeah, that's when you're playing them.
Let's talk about the fans, though. Some of the fans are going to travel to Boston, but I can't believe I realize there are a lot more people there, but is a lot more people a bigger women's basketball fan base is what I'm worried about. There is a women's basketball fan base here. How much of this fan base will now, obviously, if you're north, it's a lot easier than if you're down in Fairfield County. But how much of the fan base already is going to travel to Boston?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Sun have sold out 2 regular season games at Boston already. When last year, when they were a little bit better than how they are now against the worst placed team that last year, Los Angeles. They hosted the Fever this year, which again sold out. A lot of fans coming for Caitlin Clark and the Fever, but also a lot of Sun fans, right? There's a lot of heavy WNBA presence during the block party, during the game. You could tell there was an appetite for it. And so if they end up in Boston, I feel like Boston would embrace it. They would create such a fan base around it. In terms of Sun fans going up to Boston, I've heard yes and no. I've heard we'll go occasionally. I've heard that's way too far. Why would we ever go? I've heard people are worried that they'll be priced out of season tickets because it'd be more expensive, most likely. So I think you'll still get some original Connecticut Sun fans up in Boston if they move there, but it might just be a majority just new fan base, new Boston fan base.
You and I were both up in Boston a few weeks ago, and I noticed, you mentioned the Caitlin Clark and the Fever. I thought there were way more Caitlin Clark jerseys and T-shirts than Connecticut Sun T-shirts throughout Boston and at that block party. And Boston did a great job of organizing and bringing the excitement and the atmosphere for the WNBA. But I definitely think it was Boston fans that like the WNBA, and then Boston fans and people in the area that like Caitlin Clark. So, I mean, I think that's a combination that will provide for long-term excitement and atmosphere up there.
Absolutely.
And when you look at the team as it's currently set up, it almost looks like they've bailed on this season, right? And they're not doing much. And then all of a sudden today, they bring in Aaliyah Edwards, which to me is a move in a forward direction to make the franchise look even more attractive. So it kind of goes against, in my view, not knowing all the trades they've made, but this was a big acquisition when it looks like the team was actually, I don't want to use the word tanking, but they were making moves that made it look like they were a little less fun to watch.
Right. I mean, this is their worst year in franchise history. There's no question about it. They went from being one of the top 3 teams in the league for 8 consecutive seasons. They've been to the playoff semifinals 6 straight seasons. Their playoff, that streak is probably going to end this year.
Probably.
Are they still mathematically alive?
I think they're just about to be. But it's also a rebuild year, right? Their whole starting 5 left in free agency for different teams. A lot of the reasons why they left, some were via trades out of their control. But a lot of people a lot of the players wanted better resources, a better facility, a practice facility, period. And so they hired a new coach too. And that comes with these, trying to build chemistry again, trying to all these ups and downs of how do these new players fit. A lot of them are young. There's 5 rookies on the team. It's just not quite clicking as fast as they want it to be, I think. And next year, a lot of the current players are only on 1-year deals. So that leaves them room next year to bring in more people. If they end up moving to Boston, that's a huge, huge boost in free agency of saying, hey, come to us in 2 years. If you're still here, you're going to be a part of something new. It's something exciting, whether they're in Boston, whether they're in Harvard. And I think that would really help. 1 year of not playing so well and having a poor record doesn't really determine, I think, how the ceiling for this franchise.
We've been talking about this, the 3 of us here, and of course, we have our thoughts and opinions, and we've been sharing them with you. Also, a few days ago, Jen Rosati met with the media. I think it was on Sunday to talk about what the rumors and whatnot, and not a final deal done. But she had some thoughts, and we want to hear from Jen. And this is a little bit of what she had to say a few days ago about the subject of the Sun maybe moving and leaving Connecticut.
The Mohegan Tribe, decades worth of investment in the WNBA before it was popular to own a WNBA team. So I'm proud to be representing one of the ownership groups that has really invested in this. And I'm also proud that they've had the foresight to think about what the future holds for the WNBA and whether or not they're equipped to ride into the future the way some of these other ownership groups have. I know the expansion process was also thorough. Kathy's talked about that a lot. They investigated whether cities were right. They investigated whether teams were going to build facilities and what size arenas they were playing in. And there's some of us in this league that aren't even at the standard of what expansion teams are expected to have when they come into this league. And so I appreciate that our ownership group has thought about that. They've been thoughtful and where they are and what the league might look like in 5 years and the size of our arena and the fact that we don't have a practice facility, and really have tried to do what's best for not just this team, but for the league as a whole.
All right, so it's kind of a prideful Jen Rosati there talking about how this franchise has been built since it moved here from Orlando, and now, though it's been built up and they've been quite successful throughout the years, now the league and the expectations have kind of maybe passed by what this organization can provide in this stage, in this location for its players and for its fans, and that maybe it is time. Expansion teams, she mentioned, have a much higher expectation from the league to be successful and to provide facilities and whatnot for its players when they come into the league in the next couple of years. And Boston does seem to provide that. And Jen says you have to look, and she's aware of that, but yet she's thankful to the organization that brought the Sun here, because this is a basketball state, as we talk about the basketball capital of the world. That's the UConn slogan, but it does carry over, I think, to Connecticut Sun.
Absolutely. I think it's lost just how much of what the Tribe did to keep this franchise, right? Back in 2003, when they got approval from the WNBA to host a WNBA team at Mohegan Sun Arena, that arena was brand new. The league pretty much gave them a choice, my Orlando Miracle or Miami Soul, and whichever team they didn't choose would fold. And so I think they did a really good thing by saving this franchise. Obviously, then it wasn't the Sun yet. They moved it from Orlando up to Connecticut, and it's been so successful. We've seen MVPs, we've seen finals runs, we've seen all-stars, and I do agree with that. I think the league kind of has outgrown, whether it's this market, whether it's the way this team has been managed. Like I said, the Sun are the only team without a practice facility. And all the new teams coming, whether it was Golden State, whether it's Portland or Toronto, or these new 3 teams, a facility is mandatory. It's a non-negotiable. Players need more. They want more. They have more power than ever to vocalize their needs. And we're seeing that is going to be stopped. That's going to impact free agency for teams that don't have those resources.
Joe, is this unfair to the Connecticut sports fan?
Well, I don't know about what's fair or not fair. I mean, to be honest, we have no rights to have a team.
Right, but it's been supported quite well.
Yes, but you go to a game because you enjoy watching the game. I don't feel abandoned if. Now, I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of teams come and go. I mean, I don't think I'm entitled. I don't think Connecticut's entitled to have a team. I mean, the UConn women's program has provided about as much exciting women's professional basketball look as you could possibly want anyway. So no, I don't think it's a matter of fair. I think it's unfortunate that it looks like the bottom line is maybe the league, in spite of itself, is outgrowing what the Sun can provide. Now, we talk about a practice facility, and that's a big deal. There's no reason why the Connecticut Sun, the Tribe, couldn't build a practice facility to help keep them there. If it's a couple of $1 million to build a facility, what they're talking about, I don't know how much it was to build one in Boston, but I know they're going to provide one. But why couldn't the Tribe build a practice facility here? They've got enough room on that property to build 20 of them.
Right. I mean, it's not a case of money for the Mohegan Tribe. They've got one of the most successful casinos on the East Coast, if not in this country. Why even sell at this point? Is there pressure coming from somewhere?
I think there's a ton of pressure coming from players. I don't know necessarily if it's from the league itself, but I think, like I said, these players have never had as loud and as big of a voice, as big of an impact than they do this year or last year. They know people are watching. The W is recording record views across the league, whether it's a Caitlin Clark game, a Sun game, or any of the above, and they're realizing that they, in tune with the CBA negotiations, they have power and they can say these things, and what they want is not out of pocket, right? Bigger salaries. We can all agree that they should be paid a little bit more than what they're paying now, and so I feel like this move, this sale, whatever it may be, the Tribe also made may decide to keep the team. They may decide to open up investment and bring in more people. Who knows? Like Jen said, nothing is finalized yet. And I think this is something that the Tribe has obviously thought about for a while and thought about where their place is in this league going into the future.
What does the future of the WNBA look like? Or does it look significantly different whether the team stays in Connecticut or moves, say, to Boston or to one of the expansion cities that are on that list?
I think it doesn't change too much. I think if it changes to Boston, if the Sun do move to Boston, you still have this New England tie, right? You still have this upper New York rivalry, whether it's Boston or Connecticut. And I think that's great for the league to keep that. If the league decides to move the Sun out of Connecticut, then you don't really have this New England tie anymore, this New England presence. And I think a lot of fans will be bummed about that. But then some other city maybe will get a WNBA team for the first time, and that'll bring new fans and new growth.
When you talk to the others, beat writers from around the league, are your jobs and your accessibility for your respective teams the same, equal, better here, not as good here, or somewhere else?
Yeah, I would say they're pretty standard across the board. There's some teams that maybe are a little bit more closed doors than others. The WNBA does a really good job of sending out schedules every week, so we know when a team is in town for practice, when they're not. There's Zoom availabilities as well when they're on the road. So I feel like they do give decent access. Obviously, it could be better. During COVID, they did a really good job of having Zooms every day when a team was on the road. Now it's only during game days. So I feel like there's room for improvement in there as well.
What have the fans told you over the last few months of this season about about the team losing all of its players, and you don't want to say the word tank, but they just don't have the talent that they had last year, and it's nowhere close. What have they said about that in general, and what have they said, about a move in not necessarily specific to a specific town, but just in general?
Yeah, I think people are frustrated, right? It's really hard to root for a losing team. But I would also say that the Sun have had longtime fans since when they first got here 20 years ago. There are fans that will stand by this team. There are fans that come every single game. And the Sun sold out season tickets for the first time ever this year, which says a lot more about their fan base than it does what's the result of each game. And opening up season tickets for next year too, I think it'd be a safe assumption to see they're going to reach those sellout numbers just as well.
Next year, even if they're here, but it's just for one lame duck year?
Right. I mean, Jen Rosati said on Sunday that if next year is their last year in Connecticut, they're going to blow it out. They're going to, have a lot of excitement. They want people to come and show up and show out for this team if it is the last.
Well, they want that. Do you think that'll happen, Joe?
Well, I know one thing, that the UConn Women Connection is something that all of us who follow women's basketball in the state will miss. The idea of seeing former players come through here in person as pros, I think, is a big part of the draw. I know teams are doing well in other cities who don't have that kind of a connection, but for our population, the draw that this team gets has so much to do, I think, with the UConn Women Connection and seeing all of these former players come through here in person as pros. I know that's the one thing that I would miss the most about the franchise leaving.
And think about this. Now with the move today of trading for Aaliyah Edwards, you can have an all UConn front line, Tina Charles, Olivia Nelson-Ododa, and Aaliyah Edwards.
And Bria Hartley.
And, yeah, so you could have four starters. The whole front line would be UConn, former UConn. So, but that's a lot of teams. I mean, is there any? I think there's only one or two teams in the league that doesn't have a UConn player in it. They have the most players in the league, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it the same fan that goes to both, or are there more UConn fans? I would think there are more UConn fans in the state than Connecticut Sun fans.
I would agree with that. I think there are some fans that go to both, right? We see season ticket holders that are for Huskies and also for the Sun. I think the Sun kind of brings a little bit more of a local tie to the fan base, right? They draw a lot of people from that southern east part of Connecticut, whether it's Groton, whether it's New Haven. They're even bringing people from Rhode Island. And I'm sure UConn's also bringing them that draw as well. But for a lot of people going to a WNBA game, that might be your first and only time seeing a professional women's sports team, a professional women's basketball team for sure, and that draws a lot more people from unique places.
Does can the divide right now between players and owners in the WNBA, can that have an effect on a move by the Sun or the expansion of the league?
I'm not sure on that. We're not privy to those conversations of what they're negotiating quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the players having this kind of power are speaking up for more of their needs and more of their wants. Obviously we know about salary, we know about practice facilities. There's also, having more resources for women who are pregnant, women who want more maternal leave, and resources with that aspect of their lives. There's also this whole debate about when a player can enter the league, right? Do they have to wait until they're 22? Do they have to wait until they're a senior? We don't quite know how those conversations will impact expansion team conversations. All the cities who are coming into the league with expansion teams definitely would have to abide by the new CBA as well.
What do you think?
I think we've pretty well thrown it up there and tossed it around pretty good.
I think so. This has been very enlightening, certainly for me. Joe,
Well, I've been around Maggie a lot covering, the UConn women's beat, and that's why we brought her here.
So, a final thought: is there a time frame? Would you say there's no drop dead date or anything?
No, I've heard these processes can take up to 6 months from start of, hey, we're going to put the team on the market. We're going to look at what we can evaluate in our investment with this team to handing it over to a new owner. We're kind of at this 4-month mark right now. There is no drop dead date. It could come this week. It could come next. It could come months from now. It just depends on how quickly the league is moving.
One thing we know: Maggie will have all of the answers eventually.
When she gets them.
Yes, eventually, as a CT insider and the beat writer for the Connecticut Sun. And of course, you before you know it, it'll be the UConn women's season again. Oof. And that will be exciting once again as they try to defend another national title that they won. This has been great. So this is going to live on WFSB.com. We hope you've enjoyed this exclusive look at the state of the Connecticut Sun. For Joe and Maggie, I'm Marc Robbins. We will see you next time. Take care.